Hello, everyone. I'm Josipa Petrunic, and I'm President and CEO of CUTRIC. And thank you for joining us for our first opening keynote speech of day one of our conference. We're excited to have with us today CEO of Metrolinx, Phil Verster, who's talking about Metrolinx, It's Happening, which I think is just a fantastic title because we're all waiting for lots of great and innovative things to be happening on the GO train and the GO bus system. And for those of you who live in and around the Greater Toronto and Hamilton areas, as I do, and use the GO system for your daily life and your daily business and your career and existence, then you know how critical the growth of the Metrolinx system is, not just to the GTHA, but to the whole of Canada, given the importance of this area to the GDP of the country. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Phil Verster, as I noted, President and CEO of Metrolinx. It's pretty important to note as well that before he came to Metrolinx, Phil managed a lot of train operations, including passenger rail systems in England, Scotland, and Ireland. And as someone who lived in Scotland and in London, did a lot of graduate studies there as a poor student, I lived on that train system. So to the extent that it served my needs, thank you, Phil, for getting me to and from university in London on a very, very, very cheap set of tickets. You basically established my ability to graduate at all. And so Phil joined Metrolinx in 2017. And if you've been an observer, you just know how many changes have happened since that time. It's been really impressive. And despite difficult, sometimes political or environmental or climate or now pandemic conditions, he has really managed to succeed in improving the service in a notable way for passengers like myself. So with that, over to you, Phil. Thank you for joining us. And we really, truly appreciate having the opportunity to share with our audience today some of your insights about the next generation of technology innovation in the rail system.
Thank you very much, Josipa. So innovation is a very interesting topic, especially in the transit industry. And when we have a logo that says it's happening, we are pointing to the fact that we are delivering stuff. It's interesting, in the next 2 months, our minister already opened Cooksville, which is a brand new $130 million facility. We are soon opening the Kipling multimodal hub. Bloomington Station is happening in the next 2 months, and so is the Union Station bus terminal, a new terminal of around $130 million, as well as the Union Station Bay Concourse. And I think it's really important to land this as sort of a first idea with the audience. While innovation feels like it's about technology, and when we say innovation, everyone thinks your mind already goes to technology. Some of the messages I have today is innovation has to be pervasive. If your organization is going to adopt innovative new technologies or new ways of doing things, you have to have a culture of pervasive innovation. You have to get people to innovate across a whole spectrum of things. So, Addy, if you click on for us to the next slide, I want to start off by talking about some of the innovation we had in our organization just around COVID. You know, very quickly, hand sanitizing dispensers were put in at all of our buses. Health kiosks, as you see at the bottom, was implemented. And we started to figure out how to get our customers to feel safe. And we rapidly changed what we do. Cleanings happening across all of our organization twice a day. We took our people out from behind the wicket, to put them on concourses, like you can see from the lady top left-hand corner, focus on customer service. And we had to move fast. And in order to move fast, your people must be ready to do things. Next one, Addy. And then if you think of, on the next slide, very quickly, we put the barriers or the shields in between every seat. And now our own people, you can see on the left-hand side, started to work out what the design would look like. And that's the sort of cardboard cutout pieces that was used to start to think about how the barriers work. This all came from inside the organization. And I think that's what's fascinating, you know, that's how you then extend your service. We helped other parts of the Ontario public sector to move patients that were infected between locations. And that ability for an organization to innovate is really crucial. Next one, Addy. Here's an interesting thing. We are implementing lean throughout our organization. And now you may think, oh, this is boring because this is just what any organization can do. But focusing on lean, we found ways to increase our capacity before COVID by up to 35%. 35% more trains were put into service, more services were run in the 2-year period pre-COVID. And that is not by buying new trains, that's by just getting more from what we had. And that required a lot of innovation. And so one of the things I found that was amazing is how much potential there are in our organizations for people to think out of the box and think innovatively. And that's something to tap into. Next one. For us, and for those of you that live in the GTHA will know that quite a lot of our surrounding track is owned by our colleagues in the freight organizations of CN and CP. And this has always been a difficult old relationship. And over the last 2 years, we changed it from a difficult old relationship to a good relationship. And the reason why is we started to understand, really think about what's important for your customer, and then innovate around what's important for in this case, your colleagues. And it was important for us to understand, and I'll never forget Keith Creel from CP had a good way of putting it when he said, look, our organization think about capacity, about 100-year timeline. We want 100 years. We are the custodians in CP of the capacity for CP for the next 100 years. And I think if you understand your suppliers and you understand your customers and you focus on that, then you can find ways to innovate around that. And we're now putting agreements together in terms of how we can coexist with CN and CP on their infrastructure. And they've been fantastic partners, and they've been very patient with us, and great to work with. So really important if you want to innovate as an organization to be able to understand those around you. Next one. So hydrogen fuel cells and hydrogen powered trains. We looked into this very carefully, and we've always been very keen around this. It's been a slog to get the train builders and the market to adopt this technology properly and implement it properly into trains. We even went so far as an organization, in order to stimulate the market, we hosted conferences here in Toronto, and we funded the design of a hydrogen-powered loco, the desktop design. And we made that desktop design available to the market. And clearly, the real challenge with hydrogen is the power transfer ratio. It is how to get enough hydrogen-powered energy onto a loco that can haul a 12-car bi-level train. And I'm sure we'll chat about this some more later on. But you know, sometimes when you want when you innovate, you're never in it alone. We've been working with our supply chain, stimulating this discussion, and I'm convinced there's going to be hydrogen-powered trains somewhere in the future. It's just a matter of time. Next, Daddy. So here's an interesting one. We stimulated our teams, and we've got a fantastic marketing team to innovate with customer interfaces. You know, more digital messaging, digital branding, long-awaited free Wi-Fi on all of our trains. It started, and it's happening. It's happening. It's there. Free Wi-Fi on buses and trains. So we are nearly halfway through the train fleet. We've done, I think by now we've done 2/3 or 70% of the bus fleet. Early part of the new year, we'll have Wi-Fi on all of our trains and buses. But more, you know, silly stuff. PPE vending machines, Purelator and Loblaws deliver groceries and other ordered products of the internet at selected stations, all focusing on getting the customer innovative ways to serve the customer and give the customer more product. And again, you don't, as an organization, come up with these things just because someone tells people do this, do that. It happens because you want an organization to innovate and come up with these ideas when people see it in other parts of other industries and bring it to life in your organization. And our marketing people has been fantastic. Addy will show you the next one as well. This is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek one. We've got a few buses running around, and again, serious message here is we've been saying to our customers, your health and safety is first priority, because I know, even though people want to get from point A to point B, they're not going to get from point A to point B if their health is at risk. So the tongue-in-cheek about this marketing innovation was, we clean the buses so often they are now transparent. They are so clean. We've cleaned all the paint off and everything. You know, it's so clean you can see people inside the bus. Again, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek at a time when, when this pandemic is not something to laugh about, but it needs a little bit of lightheartedness as well at times. Next one, Addy. So, Addy, are you going to click on this one for us? That's, again, marketing. I can't tell you how we've extended our digital footprint in marketing, and how we are reaching audiences with everything from Instagram through to TikTok and memes and GIFs and all of that. It's a fascinating field, and we've done so much to make sure we find ways to reach our audience. In the end, what we do has economic benefit. And the more people we can move from point A to point B has a huge economic benefit for the GTHA. And what we as an organization therefore decided a couple of years ago is that we got to convince people in a country as big as Canada, where a car is so convenient, if we're going to get people to use our transit, we have to innovate a lot in this particular marketing space. Next one, Addy. And so here's the let's call it a little, and I wanted to show you as a group some examples of innovation in places you don't really expect it. We've worked with Standards Canada to introduce an independent safety assessor program, very similar to what's in Europe. That's an innovation. It may be really part of the safety portfolio of activities. I've also been struck. I'm a little bit obsessed with safety, and I'm very worried about safety practices on Canada's railways, plural. And when I'm on track and I see sort of the traditional way of doing track access in Canada, it gives me sleepless nights. So one of the things we've innovated on is we've taken a personal track safety, or PTS, which is a very well-known sort of safety process that we are all familiar with coming from the UK industry. We've now implemented it here in Canada, and it will, in years to come, have a massive impact on safety in Canada. And we, together with that new PPE standards, which is the full PPE, which you can see there in the top right-hand corner, on the right and on the left, which would be a fantastic improvement from what we've got today. Next. Beautiful, beautiful. With municipalities, we're doing these AV pilots. And again, I said earlier, innovation, sometimes, and I know this is technical innovation, so CUTRIC focus on technical innovation is great. Great that you do that. I just come at this from innovation gets over the line sometimes with difficulty and sometimes slowly, and it needs partners and partnerships. We partner with Whitby Municipality and Rouge Hill, and we're very excited about getting some of these AV trials off the ground and get this to work. Next. Now, here's another one which is potentially sort of, you say, well, that's not real innovation, but it is. The thing about railway networks are they're very customized and very particular. Working with our supply chain, working with our bidders on call, they gave us strong, innovative ideas on how we can position platforms and design stations. And we've changed our designs for stations at places like East Harbour and Exhibition. And one of the things that will do, and I said this before, let's sort of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. One of my personal ambitions are to run up Express all the way past Union and up the Stouffville line. Wouldn't it be cool for people to catch a train to the airport from Scarborough, from Agincourt? That would be fantastic. I just think it's magnificent. And so by changing the platforms in our designs, we created more capacity across the network that would make that possible. I just think it's fantastic. I mean, it's very innovative. And those are decisions. And keep in mind now, very similar to Keith Creel's comments on decisions we make now. Decisions we have made here are 100-year type decisions. And it's humbling when your teams are making these decisions, which have a big impact. Next, Addy. Oh, here's one which you're really gonna laugh about this one. Procurement is probably the field where you at least think about innovation, because everyone thinks procurement is a boring, slow-moving process, but it's not. On our projects now, on the projects we are buying out in the market out there, we're innovating. We're innovating by bringing, instead of sort of sharp stick motivations, we're bringing in incentivization. And what we have here, we call it Prime. The Prime regime that we brought in on Encore is one whereby we pay bonuses for performance rather than hit companies with liquidated damages if they don't perform. And it's a totally different mindset. And I think it's a game changer for how our market works. So again, when you want to innovate, we're going to get much more for customers from our construction community, I think, because we treat our construction community more and more on a fair basis for risk sharing, and by operating with a performance-related approach rather than a sharp, pointy stick approach, I think we create a better future. Keep in mind, I've got $63 billion worth of transit investment to deliver in the next 10 years. And it can only do that if we do it like with our supply chain that helps us. Addy, you need to go to the next one. On our subway is going to be, the Ontario line specifically, is going to be one of the really cool technology-wise products with a signaling system that can take automated driverless trains. Now, driverless trains and automated trains is not anything new. So it's not really cutting-edge technology, but it's an application for a very unique line that will operate with a unique frequency, and it'll have its unique challenges. And so in our planning, huge number of innovative ideas around that. Next one. And the last one is, and again, innovation is, we're thinking of innovative ways to create sound barriers. And if you look top right-hand corner, landscaping, translucent barriers that allows for light to pass through, continuously welded rail and rubber bases to make sure communities, and especially here, this would be especially important type of innovation that we'll deploy on the at-grade section through places like Leslieville towards Gerrard, where we will make that community as insulated from subway noise as we can. And it's a fantastic type of principle that you can innovate with something that's as general as vegetation and noise barriers. And so that's my presentation. I just wanted to cover a lot of different areas with you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you so much, Phil. That was fantastic. And there's loads of questions that are coming through, and we're going to try to use the time as efficiently as possible. But to summarize a couple of the key points that you raised, I think we all love the cardboard boxes, the roll up your sleeves and get to it attitude. But in general, one thing that struck me from what you were saying is, some of these innovations are just good for transit. So COVID created an opportunity for cleaner, more hygienic, more modernized services. And I can tell you, as I take the GO train regularly, still during the pandemic period, it seems cleaner and it seems more modernized. And as a rider, it's a better client service. And so one sense is some of these things just shouldn't go away at the end of the pandemic. They should stay as a fundamental part of transit development. And the second thing that struck me in your speech was that innovation takes the long haul, and we're firm believers in that. It's collaborative, it takes partnerships. And if you look at all the automated vehicle pilots out there and the early electric bus pilots, including demonstration projects still today, lots of things go wrong. And that's why they don't go to immediate procurement en masse in Walmart-ready commercialized products. It's because innovation isn't a moment in time. It's a long process of collaboration. And I think the last thing that really struck us from your speech was this notion of positive performance measures, that we've always been believers that financial innovation is the core to also technological innovation in transit. And what you're saying is procurement innovation could work that way as well. And we know on our end, we've got a bunch of electric buses out there and chargers with loggers on them, and we could turn that into feedback that says to manufacturers, look, if you overperform and save cities more money, you should get some kind of financial kickback or benefit, and that's going to motivate a kind of behavior. So those three things really struck us, and that goes into the first question that we want to put your way, which is lots is happening at Metrolinx, lots on the climate action-oriented world, lots on the track optimization. You're trying to get more people into trains with fewer resources, at least pre-COVID. So if you had a crystal ball, or at least you could let us look into the crystal ball for the next 3 years, of this entire spectrum of things that are happening, what are the top 3 technology innovation initiatives or projects at Metrolinx that, looking back 3 years from now, people will note have fundamentally changed their system?
Right. So by far the biggest innovation that we need to bring, and again, it's not radical technology at all, but by far the biggest innovation we have to bring is utilization of assets. And utilization of assets mean many things. It means an investment in signaling technology so you can get more from your trains, and get your trains to move in multiple directions across a network that has the capacity. And so investment in signaling to get two-way all-day trains, investment in track capacity to make sure we can run many shorter trains in both directions rather than long trains in one direction in the morning, opposite direction in the evening. Post-COVID, we are seeing we're keeping a close eye, working with the different, I'm listening to CEOs across the downtown area. The idea of one central head office downtown is gone. That idea is gone. We're going to be into regional offices. We're going to be into more Zooming and Teamsing and networking via technology. But then on the other hand, we are social beings. There's going to be meetings. So instead of everyone traveling in 5 days a week, in the morning, out in the evening peak, we're going to get people travel 2-3 times a week to a meeting from downtown out to Pickering and go for a meeting there in a newly created regional office. So the world is changing. And so the critical things to get right now is your capacity planning. You've got to get your organization into high gear with regard to continuous improvement. We're training everyone in Metrolinx up on lean manufacturing techniques, waste elimination. What are the 7 wastes, and how do you get them out of your business processes and out of your way of thinking? That's the space to be in. And then after you've done those really basic type of innovation things, then look for new technologies. Look for the opportunity to apply technologies to help you. In our offices, we're going to use new technology to help us with dynamic allocation of desks for people to sit at. So technology mustn't be the objective. It must be the pervasive use of a tool to help you to get to your objective. And our real objective is, I mean, our customer satisfaction levels are at all-time highs. Our employee engagement level is at all-time highs. Our employee engagement is at 81% during the COVID period. We are frantic about keeping our employees safe and employees engaged. Keep your employees engaged, you keep your customers satisfied, you've got a business.
So what I'm hearing here is that what we've got is the asset optimization is one of your goals, right? Which I think we'd all love to see, and we've heard a lot about that. The other is getting away from going into the center and out of the center. It's more about this dynamic moving people around, and COVID's just spurred that, certainly. And then the third thing is technology is an innovation process, right? Not just a piece of hardware at a moment in time, but you're talking about real processes. Look, I have to be honest, like there was a time 5, 6, 7 years ago when nobody had anything good to say about Metrolinx. That was just the truth of it. Like things weren't working. They weren't working the way they should. And everybody felt that things could be a lot better. And that's a controversial thing to say. But nowadays, loads of people are talking about good things happening at Metrolinx, and clients are happy, and I'm a rider that's happy. So I think that's saying something. Now into it, I'm going to poke a little bit because you did say it in your presentation. Metrolinx has sunk some money into hydrogen, right? We were part of those panels. We were part of that strategy at CUTRIC. We were up there talking about hydrogen and the potential for Hydrail, but where has that gone? And so the question is, you know, there was a big kind of to-do about it a few years ago, and then it seems to have died, and nobody knows where the hydrogen file is at Metrolinx. So can you reveal that to us?
No, Josipa, no, that's not true. That's not true. The hydrogen file is published. So it's on the website, and it's available to all of the bidders. So keep in mind, let me remind you exactly what we've done. Is the chain of events that you need to get a technology implemented always starts with the right building blocks for an idea, and it always ends with a practical application and the use of the idea. To have great building blocks but no application doesn't add up to an innovation. And so the real challenge here is, and when you look across the world at taking hydrogen and implementing it on in rail, it's mostly been on small single-decker trains, and it's mostly been where the power to weight transfer with some sacrificial capacity, where you lose capacity because it's a new technology, it's not fully developed yet. Elon Musk can still do a lot of things with batteries and cells to help how the technology gets implemented and deployed. So as the technologies improve in time, the hydrogen application will find its way onto more applications in rail. And so what we did was we went to the market and said, right, you bidders out there, market, you build trains. If you train builders want to use hydrogen, we are up for it. We will start off by designing a logo, and we had a great project around that, designing a logo, the essentials of what a logo would look like. But we can't solve everything. We'll give you a template of just initial thoughts to show what initial thoughts could be. And we try to pull together from different sources in the industry out there what a logo could look like. And then we left it up to the market. And we said to the market, on our Encore Go expansion, we're open to proposals. Bid the proposals to us. If you are ready to commercialize this, then commercialize it. And what was interesting at that stage, because that was about 2 years ago, what's interesting at that stage is the market was very very interested in hydrogen, and organizations such as Alstom brought their hydrogen solution into service. I think it was a 2-vehicle regional train, and it often is regional two-vehicle trains. A hydrogen train like that is operated in Japan for a couple of years already. And so the market had the choice. And in our Encore expansion, none of the bidders felt that the products, that the technology was ready to bring that product to market for a busy, high output railway, and that's it. Mm-hmm. That's as much as we can do. And do I think we'll have hydrogen trains in the future? For definite. For definite. I just think the application technology is not yet there.
Can I ask you then, Phil, on that point? So no doubt, we spent a lot of time looking at the Kradia Island, and of course Alstom and the folks there have fed into our process in the last couple of years to understand what the capacity is. But on the technology readiness scale, down at TRL1, as we say in technology readiness lingo, you're in the lab, you're at the university, there's nothing commercial there. And once you get to TRL9, you've got a train that you can buy off the shelf in a common procurement process. Where Hydrail is somewhere in between, and really where it is at the large scale demonstration and integration trialing. So that's not procurement, that's trialing and demonstration. Is there a role for Metrolinx or Via Rail working with Metrolinx for a demonstrator track? Because we've had these proposals many times come to us.
Absolutely, Josipa. I went very public and said that if anyone has a suggestion to come up with a hydrogen loco, we will trial it on our network and we'll run it with our train services. So, and I think that's what we have to do. Yep. That's what organizations say. We must create the opportunity for train builders to come and trial solutions, and I'll remain open to that. I'm going to say something, Josipa, which is very practical. We are going through a very intense, difficult problem-solving cycle on getting Tier 4 locos to work properly. There's sort of technology innovations in Tier 4 locos that make sure that we have less particulates that are that contaminate the air and contaminate the environment around us. And so this is just the reality check that I have, is that we are always in the implementation phase of new technology. Now, some of the technologies aren't as high profile or as sexy as hydrogen is, but we're always there. We're always implementing the latest that we can lay our hands on, within reason the latest, not always the latest, but we're always up for implementing and for giving an opportunity to implement technology. We have to be. We have to be. Otherwise, we're not helping the supply chain.
Well, that's no doubt. And I think bringing rail into the modern century in particular, in an area where rail perhaps as a people mover system in Canada has been underfunded for a long period of time, but also we have a small population, let's be honest, right? Like we don't have the population density that makes for the kind of commuter rail out of London that instantaneously has a profit margin that you could find. So it is challenging. In that regard, I'm going to turn to a question from a member of the audience that builds on that. This is a question from Willem Klumpenhauer, who asks, essentially, is the North American model of track owner and operator hindering the achievement of some of your goals, including those innovation goals or the asset optimization goals, this opposed to the European model of separating the infrastructure management and operation? So how much is this just an outdated, anachronistic way of managing track and operation? And could that change the possibility for the kind of rail systems we have?
It's not a hindrance. It's not a hindrance. And I'll tell you why it's not a hindrance. It could be a hindrance. If you have an immature commercial approach relative to the CN and CP organizations, it could be a hindrance because I sometimes use the analogy, us wanting to operate passenger trains over CN or CP's network is like walking up to someone's house and saying, I want to live downstairs, please, but don't worry, I just want half of downstairs. You can still use the kitchen, but I'll use the rest of what's downstairs in your house. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're saying, please, we want to operate across your property and use some of your capacity, which you have earmarked for the future. It's a difficult thing to ask of someone. And so you have to accept that you're going to get a cold shoulder if you don't approach this in a mature way. So it can be a very challenging conversation. But I got to say this to you, is that CN and CP are two fantastic partners. We have had very challenging conversations, clearly, where I said, please, we just want half of your downstairs floor to live in. But CN and CP are two fantastic organizations. We work closely with them, and so no, I think this is where you have to find innovative ways, and you have to work with colleagues like that in ways which are very different to what's been done before.
So let me ask you on that, for 2 years, we did a cross-national consultation process with Transport Canada, where we were trying to figure out what are the top 10 rail projects in Canada that industry would actually pump money into. And, Metrolinx participated, but so did CP and CN consistently. And the focus was on passenger mobility. And, of course, we all know that the bulk of rail movement is freight, not passenger. But one of the big projects that came up was artificially intelligent optimization of track usage. That would make a lot of sense, in order to use AI to know exactly precisely at which moments in time should track be used by which particular vehicles. But the theoretical didn't pan out very easily for CP and CN because they were quite honest, like, look, we'd have to hand over all of our proprietary information in order for an AI machine to basically crunch those numbers on behalf of the public sector. And that theoretically could happen. And we could have those kinds of optimized systems, but that kind of collaboration is challenging and it puts a lot of risk in front of the private freight operators. So can you explain to us from the data standpoint, the use of big data, track optimization using AI, where do these big themes exist in the Metrolinx family in that relationship with CP and CN? Is there movement in that direction? Has it already happened? We just don't know.
I think we must. When I listen to how you put it, Josipa, I courteously say, while data and artificial intelligence sort of machine learning based tool can sort of crunch a lot of data, this is not a data issue in the first instance. This is a commercial issue. And so what's interesting about your proposition is that what you're doing there is you're actually getting to the heart of why innovations sometimes need to be very multidimensional and has to have a commercial basis for something to become really useful. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced that if capacity challenges exist for any of us, whether it's Metrolinx or whether it's CN or CP separately on any part of their network, any part of our network, and we can use AI techniques to tell us what is the best way to optimize where we're at, then we're going to use that. Mm-hmm. And it'll start off with our own application, but it will be in the case of part of my network, if someone else wants to get a part of my network through looking at my data, I'm probably going to be reluctant to share that. And that's just because we are commercial organizations. And one of the biggest things for me as a CEO at Metrolinx since I've joined here is Metrolinx is now about 15, 20 times more commercial than what we were 3 years ago. We are commercial. I say it to my teams all the time. Business operates a business, and we've got huge momentum behind our commercial decision making, and it's a totally different way of approaching what we do. We're a business that use capacity to create economic value, and so I'll be as reluctant to share information that is going to be at my commercial disadvantage. And I think that's the type of challenge that leaders like you and people on this conference would face continuously.
No doubt. And we only 2 minutes left, so I'm going to head into asking for your final comments on what advice would you give the Prime Minister of the country, the Premier of the province, if you had sort of the ability to get from either political leader or either level of government the kind of funding or support or regulatory environment you needed, what is it that Metrolinx needs in order to achieve its next top goals and move more people by rail more efficiently in the next 5 years? Basically, what do you need that you might not be getting right now?
I would most definitely not advise the Premier or the Prime Minister on anything we need. I definitely don't think that's where we're at. I don't think it's interesting. It's great how you frame the question, but I think the answer is actually simpler. The answer is that we're getting everything. Mm-hmm. We're getting everything. We're getting support from government. There's nothing we're asking for that we need. The real challenge for us is the challenge we've always faced, is how do How do we cobble together, integrate, build solutions that can actually be delivered?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The type of challenges we've got it's why I've pitched my presentation to this group the way I did. The type of problems we face aren't high-tech problems. The problems we face there aren't enough good project directors and project managers in the GTHA. I would love for there to be more railway engineers in this region. We don't have enough people with experience in how to work safely. I go into construction sites still and I see very unsafe practices. These are the things that really matter. And so the things that really matter for us is really stuff that we can fix ourselves. And that's what we're trying to do.
I think these are critical messages to wrap up on, Phil, because essentially what it is we need some time, because what you're saying is you've got the supports you need the time to be able to build them out. Technology takes time, better processes take time. And I would just add to that and conclude as we wrap up, we also have to think about pushing people into rail, and rail can't make a success on its own. We got to get people out of their cars and city designs, right? Over to you, Phil.
Time.
Yeah.
There is no time, so we don't have time. And so what I like to do is, I'm one of those people that just want to dive in and get things done. And I'm encouraging businesses, our contracts, our subway program, we are pushing ahead at a speed which is unheard of. And we're in market. We're going to place contracts early part of next year. So you're right. Time would have been great, but we haven't got the luxury of time. So what we have to do is we have to learn on the task, on the job. We have to get the knowledge and get better as we go along. And so it's a little bit more challenging.
With that, fantastic way to end, Phil, and couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the climate is burning. We really don't have time, and technology is something that takes a lot of collaboration starting yesterday. So thank you so much, Phil, for your overview. I think it's been hugely helpful, and apologies to participants whose questions we didn't get to. I think you've just been extraordinarily revealing, and I know certainly for myself, I'll be keeping an eye out for all of those innovations, procedural as well as technical, that are making life better for those of us who want to travel by rail and not by car. Thank you again, Phil. We appreciate your time, and have a safe afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.